Sandy's arrival in Bikini Bottom wasn't an innocent move. It was an invasion, and in every episode, we see the same pattern. But the final piece of evidence is so obvious, so blatant, that you'll be shocked we all missed it for over 20 years. Let's start at the very beginning. In the episode, Tea at the Treedome, Sandy invites SpongeBob over, but she doesn't warn him her home is a death trap for him. She assumes her environment is the default, the normal one. SpongeBob enters and immediately starts suffering. His body physically reacts to the environment she created. He starts gasping and shriveling up right in front of her. Sandy observes this happening. Her response is to offer him a cup of water. This is an action that fails to address the actual problem. She's offering a glass of water to someone who is drowning on dry land. It's like offering a Band-Aid to someone who's been in a car crash, or handing an umbrella to someone caught in a hurricane. Her solution is so small, it shows she doesn't understand the real issue. The problem isn't that he's thirsty. The problem is that her entire world is poison to him. She's just so convinced her world is the only one that matters that she can't see the damage she causes. So when SpongeBob finally hits the floor, she's genuinely surprised. She rushes in with the water helmet and becomes the hero of the hour. But let's be clear, she's not a hero. She's the one who built the trap he just fell into. And if you think this was just an honest mistake, wait until you see her do it again later in this video. You'll be completely convinced it isn't a mistake at all, but a deliberate act to control her victims. She created the emergency so she could play the savior. This is the exact same playbook used in real-world colonialism. An outside power shows up, disrupts the land, or in this case the ocean, creates chaos and dependency, and then poses as the hero for fixing the very problems they caused. They don't just take land, they create the idea where the native population is made to feel like they need their colonizer, that they should be grateful for the help that only became necessary after the invasion. It's a brutal cycle of creating a crisis and then selling yourself as the only solution. In the episode Texas, Sandy Cheeks feels homesick for her life on land. Her first action is to go to a public beach and build her own Texas out of sand, physically claiming a shared space for herself. When the ocean tide naturally washes it away, she gets frustrated that the sea won't accommodate her. Her permanent solution is the Treedome. She built a giant clear wall to section off a part of Bikini Bottom, drained all the water out, and filled it with her own air and trees. She created a little piece of land inside the ocean and controls who is allowed to enter. When she tries to leave Bikini Bottom, she doesn't go because she feels out of place in the water. She returns because she realizes she can stay on her own terms. The climax of the episode is her friends throwing her a Texas party at the Krusty Krab. They don't welcome her into their underwater culture. They change their own environment to suit her. She declares Bikini Bottom is her home, but only after she is remade a part of it, to be exactly like the home she left. She didn't join the ocean, she forced the ocean to make room for her land. The episode Pressure starts off chill. SpongeBob and Sandy are just hanging out, looking at clouds. They start talking about who would win a race up a cliff. Both of them are like, I'd obviously win, because of their land or sea skills. It's just playful bragging at first. They race and Sandy wins. So SpongeBob says, okay, race me to the Krusty Krab. And he takes a head start just like she did, and he wins. This is where everything changes. Sandy gets mad. She can't handle that he beat her at her own game. So she stops being playful and makes it serious. She tells SpongeBob and his friends, land creatures are just better than sea creatures. Think about that. She's a guest in their world. And after she loses, she tells them that her entire species is superior. She lists all the things she can do, basically saying her way of living is the right way. SpongeBob and the guys are just stunned. Now they have to list their own abilities just to prove they're not worthless in their own home. Sandy's not debating anymore. She's setting the rules. To prove her point, she does something crazy. She rips off her water suit, trying to show she doesn't need technology, but she immediately starts drowning. She can't breathe and has to shove her head in a pickle jar to survive. All her big talk about being better falls apart the second she tries to live in their world without her gear. But she still doesn't back down. Now she forces them onto her turf. She dares them to go on land. The second they get there, they're helpless and get attacked by seagulls. Sandy, now in her element, fights the birds off and becomes the hero. In the end, they all apologize and say everyone is good at different things. But the real story is what Sandy did. She turned a friendly race into a fight over who's better. When she lost, she didn't just get mad. She declared her whole culture was superior, forced her friends to defend themselves, and almost got herself killed because of her pride. She acted like her way was the only way. and that's the heart of a colonizer's mindset. In the episode Sandy's Rocket, Sandy builds a spaceship so she can go to the moon. She calls it a science mission, but if you look closer, it's more like an invasion. She builds this huge rocket right in the middle of Bikini Bottom without asking anyone. Then she packs it full of nets and equipment, not to explore peacefully, but to capture whatever she finds. That's what she calls research. When SpongeBob and Patrick sneak on board and accidentally launch it, they start catching everyone in Bikini Bottom, thinking they're aliens. That chaos came from Sandy's idea in the first place. Enter new land, take samples, control the unknown. Sandy's science is just a polite word for conquest. She builds machines, crosses boundaries, and acts like the world is her experiment. She doesn't ask permission, she just claims space. In squirrel jokes, SpongeBob starts making fun of Sandy in his stand-up act at the Krusty Krab. He jokes about her fur, her tail, her accent, all the things that make her different from the rest of Bikini Bottom. The audience loves it. They laugh harder the more SpongeBob leans into it. At first it seems harmless, he's just joking, right? But you can see the look on Sandy's face. She's embarrassed, uncomfortable, but trying to play along. Now here's the twist, Sandy isn't innocent either. She's been acting superior to sea creatures since the day she arrived. She calls herself smarter, stronger, more advanced, and she builds an entire dome to live in her own atmosphere while everyone else adjusts to her rules. So when SpongeBob starts joking about her being different, it's like the world finally pushes back. For once, she's not the one on top. It's a brutal moment of irony. The colonizer gets mocked by the people she's been looking down on. But what happens next shows how deep the problem really goes. When Sandy finally snaps, she traps him inside her dome and takes off his helmet, leaving him gasping for air. She literally removes his life source, water, just to make a point. SpongeBob might have made a bad joke, but Sandy's response is cruel. She weaponizes control over the very thing that keeps him alive. It's the same kind of logic colonizers used when they took control of natural resources, water, food, and land, to remind native people who held the power. You take away someone's access to life, and you remind them who depends on who. The whole situation becomes a cycle. SpongeBob mocks her difference. Sandy punishes him with dominance. Sandy's used to being the one defining the rules. When those rules get turned against her, she doesn't reflect. She retaliates. It's one of the darkest dynamics in the whole show. A funny little stand-up bit turns into a lesson about what happens when someone who feels superior finally gets humbled, and how quickly empathy disappears once they regain control. Then there's Chimps Ahoy. This episode is wild because it shows that Sandy isn't just acting on her own, she's part of a whole system built on hierarchy and pressure. We find out that Sandy's inventions are being funded by a group of talking chimps from the surface. They're her bosses, the ones who gave her the money and mission to set up shop underwater. And when they decide to visit Bikini Bottom, Sandy freaks out. She scrambles to make her lab look impressive, the machines, the experiments, everything. But here's the problem. None of her inventions actually work. Every time she tries to show off her progress, something explodes, breaks down, or malfunctions. She's not doing science because she loves it anymore. She's doing it to survive in a system that demands results. That's not innovation. That's desperation. It mirrors the way colonizers operated under their empires. They weren't just exploring for fun. They were being funded, pushed, and rewarded for modernizing new lands. They called it progress, but it was really about control. They built railroads, factories, and governments, not to help the people living there, but to make the land work for them. That's exactly what Sandy's doing. Her inventions aren't for Bikini Bottom. They don't make life better for the sea creatures. They're designed to impress the chimps, the higher-ups, the ones holding the strings. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.